Yo, this is BoxingWave. Just want to make another video. All right, I made a long video about ring generalship, so I was like, let me make another video because I want to have a little fun. I know a lot of you boxing fans had a lot of video games. I'm sure some of you played some of these video games. Okay, I'm just to let you know, I was a spoiled kid. I had a lot of video game systems. I had all the video game systems, almost all of them. All right, I don't play video games that much now, but I just wanted to. I have a long history of playing video games. Okay, I played all of these games. All right, so I want to start from the beginning. Right, I had a Nintendo. I had an Atari. In fact, I think I had an Atari, but I was like a baby. I wasn't even really playing it like that. I was like 2, 3 years old, and I had an Atari, and Atari had been out for a long time before that. I think Nintendo was hot right around the time I was born or whatever, and I had Punch Out, right? But see, the thing with Punch Out, I don't remember what year Punch Out came out in, but it doesn't really matter because back then video games had a lot more longevity than they do today. Like, you can play a game for 10 years back then. Punch Out, it might have been out for 3 years and I might have just started playing it, because back then, that's how games were. You bought a video game, you didn't go and trade it into the store a couple weeks later because you already beat it. Back then, when you bought a game, you owned it for life. That's just how it was back then with video games. They don't make video games now like that. Now you buy a video game and you get bored of it in a couple of weeks, But so I had Punch Out, right? I can't remember if it was the Mike Tyson version or the regular. They had two versions. I'm pretty sure it was the Mike Tyson version because I did actually play Mike Tyson. I never got up to Mike Tyson though. I used the password to play him because I couldn't get that far. I remember clearly I could not beat Mr. Sandman. You Punch Out people, you know who I'm talking about. Mr. Sandman, the black dude with the ugly teeth. I could not get past this dude. I think I might have beaten him maybe once or twice, right? I might have beaten him maybe once or twice. And then I think it was Super Macho Man after him. I can't remember, but I think it was Macho Man, the big dude. I never beat him, all right? But Sandman was like the guy that I usually lost to. But most people will say that is the best boxing game ever because that's the one game that they will remember. Whether or not you are a video game fan or not. Everybody played Punch Out, right? Then, like, Sega Genesis came out. Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo came out. I had both of those systems, too. And for Sega Genesis, the best game... Well, I remember when Buster Douglas game came out because he knocked out Mike Tyson. So they came out with a Buster Douglas game. Now, the game was trash, but it was fun back then because you was a kid and you play anything. Just like when you were a kid, you probably eat all the candy in the world. You probably eat a bunch of stuff that you don't eat today, like you wouldn't dare eat because that's what kids do. They just play anything. You get them anything. My mom bought me video games and I just play them just because they were mine, Buster Douglas was trash because they didn't even have real boxers. It was just Buster Douglas and just some random name guys or whatever. And everybody, if you play with your friends, you're going to pick Buster Douglas because there's nobody else in the game that you know. The game was kind of corny, but it was fun for what it was. And then you had the Evander Holyfield game came out on Sega Genesis. That game was way better than the Buster Douglas game. I mean, it wasn't... You still had fake opponents. You had Evander Holyfield, and then you had, like, fake fighters in the game. But it was still good. Like, it was the graphics was a little better, and it was just a better... Like, it wasn't so cheesy like the Buster Douglas game. I think that was the best game on Genesis. That's as far as the ones I remember. I think I remember the Buster Douglas game and the Van Holyfield game. And then for Super Nintendo, there was Super Punch Out. So it was like the sequel to the Punch Out on Nintendo. And I know a lot of people didn't play it like that because everybody just remembers the original one. But the game was good to me. I used to have the Super Punch Out. I loved that game. I liked it better than the Sega Genesis game. It's just that no one was playing it. Everybody was playing Genesis games. And I was the only one that was playing like the Super. I had both. So I was playing the Super Nintendo games too. But I had the Super Nintendo. And I remember in the Super Punch Out, I could not beat the old man with the cane. I don't even remember his name. But if you guys played that game, you will remember that guy. was like an old man with a cane. He used to hit you with the cane in the ring. It was like, it was made up people, all right? So then you had oh, you know what? There was this game. I had a Sega CD too. Remember Sega? It was like a Sega CD was the disc, the games that were disc, and they had like they had games, like the games were kind of cheesy because they would just have movie scenes and they would implement it in the game, but you weren't actually controlling the people. It was like you had to make a decision and push left and right. They had like a lot of games like that. So there was this fighting game. I think it was called Prize Fighter for Sega CD. I didn't have that game, but I had a friend that had that game. But I did have a Sega CD, so he used to let me borrow it sometimes. And that game was cool too. It was like it was a real guy, used to fight him or whatever, and you had to pick. It was like cheesy, but it was cool because it was like a real guy in a video game. It was like a video of a guy, and you had to like, I don't know, it was whatever. I don't know. I know you guys probably never even played that game, but anyway, so boom, we got the PlayStation came out. And you had like Sega Saturn, and you had all these new systems came out, and then you had the Knockout Kings, right? Knockout Kings was the first game that really had all the real fighters in it. It had like a lineup of real fighters. It didn't have no makeup fighters, okay? And it had, you get cuts on your eyes. It was the graphics was like real at the time. It was real, and you had to, I think you go to the corner. And you hear your corner and your trainer talking to you, and then you fix the cut on your eyes or the bruises on your face and everything. I remember like they had one that had like Oscar. I think I was in high school when this came out, and it had like Oscar De La Hoya on the cover. Then they had another one with they had like a Knockout Kings 2000, 2001, I forgot years, but they had Knockout Kings. And it was at the time it was the best out because it was the graphics was real. It wasn't like the old cheesy games, So it was a big step for boxing. This was when the time where I was just playing nothing but sport games like NBA Live, NBA 2K, Madden, all of the sports games or whatever, EA Sports games. So those were out and those were hot. And then when the PlayStation 2 came out, then you had like the Fight Night. Like Knockout Kings turned into Fight Night. And it was still the same thing, but it was more realistic. Like the graphics were even better. And the people look even more realistic. And you played those or whatever. It was like, like a real boxing. Like they had the real arenas, and then they threw like some legends in there, like Muhammad Ali was in the game, and you could have Roy Jones fight Muhammad Ali. Roy Jones was a heavyweight at the time. And they had him on the cover on one of them, and I think they had Muhammad Ali on the cover on another one. So you had all those games. I had all of those games. Trying to think, there was this arcade game, right? I do not know the name of it, all right? But I used to live in, if anybody from New York, right? I used to live in Yonkers when I was like in high school, like before I went to college or whatever. So I was living in Yonkers while I was in college, and I was living in Yonkers before I graduated from high school, and I used to live near Nathan's. And anybody that's from New York or that's like familiar with Yonkers, they had this big arcade, and they had this video game where there was two screens, and they had the actual joysticks where you could actually punch with the joysticks, and you could fight somebody else on the other screen, or you just could fight the computer. And I don't know what it was called, but the looks of it, it looked like a better version of Punch Out, but you can actually control and you fight with the thing. You throw hooks with the thing, whatever. I don't know what the name was called, but I don't know if any of you guys ever played that game and you know what I'm talking about. It was two screens, and you could fight somebody else or you could fight the computer. If you guys know the name of that game, let me know in the comment. I played that game. I used to spend a lot of money on that game, because Nathan's was like right around the corner, and I was living in Yonkers at the time. I used to play this one. This is the only arcade that had this game. All right, but if any of you know, I don't think that game came to the systems. I think that was just an arcade game, but that was a dope video game. All right. Then you had like, Fight Night 3 comes out. Fight Night 3. Before I get to Fight Night 3, There was this game called Victorious Boxers on the PlayStation 2. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the anime, the Fighting Spirit. Well, in America, it's called Fighting Spirit with Ippo Makanuchi, and I'm into anime, so I watch some shows or whatever. I used to watch that, but they came out with a video game of the anime, and it was called Victorious Boxers, and it was for the PS2. It was trash, right? I wasn't even gonna mention that game, but I played the game. I actually bought the game because I love the anime show so much that I wanted to try the video game out. The video game was like terrible. So anyway, that was another game. But I was just playing Fight Night for the PlayStation 2. Then when PlayStation 3 came out, no, Xbox 360 came out first. Fight Night 3 was the most realistic video game I ever seen up to that point. Like the fighters were sweating, they were bleeding, there was no bars or anything on the screen. They was in real arenas, just like the original Fight Nights, but this one looked like real people. Like all the boxers had the same exact face and the facial reactions. And then you had the slow-mo, the instant replay, and you punch somebody and knock them out, and you see the spit flying from their mouth, and they fall all a little retarded and everything, like the way they do in real life. That was the best video game. To that point, that was the best boxing. Like, a lot of people are going to say Fight Night was the best because it's a classic. But Fight Night 3, when that came out for Xbox 360, and then it came out for PS3, that had the best graphics ever in, like, any game at that time. All right? I mean, even back then, like, you play that game, and somebody will walk into the room, and you playing that game, they'll be like, they'll think that it was a real fight. That's how good it looked at that time. All right? And then, I haven't played any other games since Fight Night Champion. That was the third one. Fight Night 4 came out. I didn't like it that much. The graphics were good, but the controls was real bad. They messed up the controls. So I remember I bought that game and I returned. I went back to the store. And then they had Fight Night Champion that came out, which was my personal favorite out of all of them. I think Fight Night Champion had the story with the guy that got framed. Basically, they made a story that was similar to like Mike Tyson's story and how he went to jail. He was fighting in jail, and then he came back and became heavyweight champion. And, it was like a real story. Like, it was a really in-depth story. It was like a movie, and then there was a bunch of cutscenes and stuff. And then actually you could play online. I mean, I think a few other games before that you could play online too, but this had the best online, out of all of them, okay? And they had the best graphics, and this was my favorite. So if I had to pick my favorite fighting game, was the last one I played, which was Fight Night Champion. I believe that was the last game that came out, okay? I can't wait till they come out for a new one for the new systems, because I know the graphics are going to be even crazier. EA Sports do it. I know they came out with some Don King prize fighter game, but I didn't play. I didn't even give it a shot because I was so much into the Fight Night games. But anyway, that's just a general background. I played so many of these games, so just let me know, what was your favorite game? All right, if you guys know the name of that one game that I couldn't think of, it was an arcade game, let me know. If there is any other fighting game style, boxing games, all right, boxing games, not boxers. Like, we know Balrog is in Street Fighter. I'm not talking about Balrog because I was in Street Fighter. I'm talking about actual boxing games that I didn't mention or that was also really good that, you just want to throw out there. Let me know. I'll discuss. We go back and forth. Or you want to if you do videos, make a response video or whatever. But it's just video game talk. Just wanted to see if you guys were a fan of the games too. I was a big fan, obviously. I bought all those systems and stuff like that. So anyway, let me know what you guys think is the best boxing video game ever. I'm probably going to say Fight Night Champion. That was the last one that came out for the 360 and PS3. All right, that was the best. That was, in my opinion, the best. And I would probably, if not that, I would probably say Punch-Out! Course, the original Punch-Out! For Nintendo, okay? All right, thanks for tuning in.